does all this and so forth.
Nobody weed whack.
They take care of this one, and they don't take care of the other one.
But the big problem was back in 1914, all this area down here, from where we started this to here, was all farmland. Dirt road out there. This was a cemetery. If you'll look in front of here, there's a retainer wall. One of the few retainer walls that you'll see on North Point Road. And the reason they got a retainer wall was when they widened North Point Road out there, cut back into this bank, they had coffins sticking out of the bank, and they had to put a retainer wall to keep. So we're standing on a graveyard.
Fun time. Delightful.
Now.
Makes sense, though.
Yeah. But the big problem was, in 1914, we didn't have problems of lawsuits, liabilities, lawyers, so forth. If you wanted to look at what we're doing right now, you simply took the weight out of your buggy, put it down in front of the horse, clipped the horse's bridle to the weight, got out of your buggy and walked up here and looked at it, and that was it. And the farmer, as long as they didn't steal any of his stuff out of his yard, well, fine. They put it here. It was part of the battle site. Okay, good. Now, the people, the Graves people, not graveyard, but Nolan Graves, who owns, the last ones I know own this property, they sort of take the attitude like, if you go on this property, you do it on your own. If anything happens to you, it's your own responsibility because you're not doing it with permission. If you get hurt, you can't sue us. We didn't say you could come on here. It's not posted, but on the other hand, right? And that is a rotten way to have to visit a historic site. And I'll let that go at that. Something should be done. The powers to be somehow or another will work something out. We've got this, we've got Battle Acre, we've got the Quilla Randall Monument, we've got a half dozen other historic sites that need marking, and we've got, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll do it. We just had at Fort McHenry a few weeks ago the big press release where they expect 1.4 million visitors next year. For next year and for the bicentennial. That's per year. If we could get 10% of those people over this side. Now the big battle cry for the last couple of years has been jobs and the economy and so forth. If we get 10%, 140,000 people to visit North Point, to visit the sites that we just visited, every one of these businesses would do a rip-roaring business. Tourists, they come in, they buy food, they put money into the economy, and they leave. They don't go to school here, they don't use any of the services here. They just come in, leave their money, and go. It's the greatest thing in the world, tourism. 140,000 potential. That's not impossible. 10% of the people who go to McHenry come over here. Not impossible. All we need is somebody to look at and say, yeah, let's do it. That's all. Anyway.
And to let our volunteers do it if they don't want to.
Well, yes. Just say, let's do it. And then it'll work out real easy after that. Anyway, let's look at it from the point of view that we don't have to go up to the next place. Because right down here, on the other side of that tree, is a little creek called Bread and Cheese Creek. Winds out past through Merritt Boulevard, past the Bowen Alley, through here, across Old North Point Road, and out in the back river. It's wide enough to cause you a problem if you try to cross it on foot. Stricker's men are pulling back. They got a little wood bridge here, and you got this stream. He's got his reserve regiment another quarter of a mile up the way. He pulls them over the stream. As soon as he gets on the other side, he starts lining the guys up on the other side. All right, you, post your company here. You post your company here. And he forms a secondary line of defense right there. He's still got his reserve regiment behind him. Okay, bring some of those guys, the ones that ran back, bring them back up. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon for your timeline, Scott. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, about now, and he waits. Clean your guns. Check your weapons to redistribute any ammunition. Make sure everybody's got enough rounds. Make sure you're sparking. Clean your guns. Run a clean rag down. Make sure they're ready to go. Get in line. If they try to take the river, it's a good defensive spot. We can hold them again here. And for the next 2 hours or so, they wait. The Brits come up to about here. They definitely can see the American line, and they stop. There's bodies all over the place. Man, wounded, people yelling, American and British. And the Brits stop. Brooks says, and Glegg says, because the time of the day and the exhaustion of the troops, they felt it was necessary to just simply stop for the night here. Now, when you consider that at the same time of the day, the Battle of Bladensburg was over and they still had enough juice to keep going and march another 5 or 6 miles into Washington, D.C. and start burning public buildings, you sort of got to question it a little bit. It wasn't that much different than the time of day. Brooks spent a lot more in manpower than he thought he would have to do to take this line. They fought a lot harder. It wasn't a walkthrough. I'll take Baltimore if it rains, militia said the recently departed General Ross. Well, it rained militia and he hasn't taken Baltimore yet. Brooks has a wooden church here, the old Methodist meeting house, which they convert to a field hospital. Martin, once more, he did this at Bladensburg. Once more, Martin stays behind. He's in civilian clothes and he's a surgeon. He's an untouchable. He works alongside the British surgeons and they work throughout the night doing amputations, doing what they can to patch up the wounded from both sides. The next morning, Brooks looks over and Stricker's gone. Now, one of those other little sidebar things, like we talked about Gordon on the Potomac, how it influenced everything. A year and a half earlier, in the spring of 13, General Winder of Bladensburg fame is leading an army up the western shore of Lake Ontario from the Niagara River. He has taken Newark, which is Niagara on the lake, and they're pushing the British ahead of them and marching over and around the corner. They're up past St. Catharines, and they're a place called Stony Creek. They stop for the night. The British, at 2 o'clock in the morning, although they're outnumbered by the Americans 3 to 1, 800 Brits against 2,500 Americans. The Brits throw a night bayonet attack against them. Come screaming through the camps at night with the bayonets down and completely rout the American forces. They capture Winder and another general, a couple colonels, and they chase the Americans all the way back to the American border. Chase them all the way back to Newark, something like 20 miles. This is a little more than a year before. Stricker's sitting up there on the other side of this little bridge right here. And he's got his men in place. Everybody's calmed down. Ammunition's redistributed. And everybody's got a chance to catch their breath. And he's looking up and down the line. All right, now this is personal interpretation. All right, this is my take on it. He's looking up and down the line and thinking, God, I'm proud of these guys. You couldn't ask for more than they gave me, and they did it. And look at them, they're ready to go again. I have one of the most valuable resources. I have one of the most valuable resources in the country right now. Veteran, experienced, combat veteran troops. What happens if we try to stay here tonight and they throw a knife in at each other? They were regulars under Winder, supposedly regular forces. They got hit hard, they didn't know what was happening to them, and they got chased from here to Heligoy. Do I want to take a chance? No. Let's pull back. Let's get in under the defenses of our cannons in town and save these guys to fight another day. And with that, he gives the word around 4:30, 5 o'clock to start pulling back. And we march up Old North Point Road, up past East Point, past Bob Bell's, and they go up. Okay, I'll keep them on the road. They go up Old North Point Road to where it ducks under that railroad bridge and goes out to the lowland, which it takes you out to the compound lot where they take all the cars that are parked, whatever, you got to bail your car out if it gets towed, at the bottom of the hill on Pulaski Highway. They hang a left there and go up, and the hill's not that steep then, but when they hit the rise of the hill, off in the distance, the ridge, you can see as the sun's going down, gleaming off the 200 cannon barrels up on that ridge. Here we come, right? And they come in and they camp a couple hundred yards below where those cannons are. They get right into Worthington Mills, camp for the night. The other side of Harris Creek, which is Linwood Avenue. And Stricker starts writing his battle report. Now, he's there. He's got his 3,500 men still basically in shape. He's at Fayette Street and a little past Linwood Avenue. Down on the waterfront, you go straight down about a mile and a half, 2 miles. Straight down Patterson Park Avenue. Most of those houses aren't there now, right? It's all open field. You go all the way down to the waterfront, down to where Safeway is now, and here's General Tobias again, his 10th County Brigade. Same size as Stricker. He's got all his men camped down on the waterfront. If the Brits would have hung a left instead of going straight here, if they would have decided to follow the waterfront in, then Stansbury would have picked them up coming in along Boston Street. He was ready there. Stricker's at the corner of the line. It goes up another half mile, goes all the way up to Monument Street, and then it goes in. Yeah, cannon and batteries are pointing north from basically Patterson Park Avenue all the way over to, well, just this side of, well, all the way over to Broadway, to where Hopkins Hospital and their compound would be built now. All that is the big battle line. They put General Winder, who shows up to take command and is politely informed that, sorry, but General Smith is going to be commanding this time around. Nobody would dare give Winder another chance to screw up. He already screwed up at Stony Creek. He screwed up bad at Bladensburg. And although he was a regular Army officer who automatically outranked a militia officer, they didn't want to take a chance that he, you know, for protocol, you're not going to give the city up. So Smith took charge and did a wonderful job, thank you. And Winder and his 800 regulars were put all the way up in the corner, all the way up by Jonesboro. So that as Brooks, the next day, gets these guys together, everybody gets your gear together, we're sending the Marines go back and the sailors go back to the fleet. They're sending boats, these 60-man rowboats, big landing craft. They're coming up Bear Creek. It's like ants, okay? They're coming up, they're hauling the wounded out, they're bringing ammunition up, they're bringing food up, they're resupplying night, this morning. Now we get ready and we start marching. And they walk up Old North Point Road, and there's trees knocked down in front of them, across the road. It's still just a narrow dirt road. And they got to stop and put the pioneers out front. These are soldiers with big leather aprons and axes. Like, chop the trees out of the way. They don't have that much, but they got some artillery and some rocket parts that they're dragging along with them. So it takes them a while, but they finally get off over to what is now Pulaski Highway, the Philadelphia Road, where Stricker made his left turn. And they turn and they come up to the top of the hill, which is where Urban Avenue is now. It's interesting because if you go to that intersection where Urban and Pulaski, it's a clover leaf. And it's like looking for Fort McHenry going across the Key Bridge. It can be done, but you got to be very careful you don't crash it. But if you look west at that intersection, you get on Urban Avenue, right? Urban going north and south, and you look west on the skyline is the ridge, and there's the pagoda at Patterson Park, Rogers Mountain, clear as a bell. And this is what Brooks would have seen. He gets at the top of the hill and looks. And it's basically fields, open fields, some woods down here, but he's looking across open fields up. There he is. There's a guy that we chased up the road. There he is. He camped up there, and his men are grouped up there. And there's another whole brigade down there, and it looks like it might be another one behind him. And what's that behind them? 200? Who's manning them things? Oh my God, they're sailors, aren't they? Yeah. Regular sailors, aren't they? Well, let's see if we can get around them. So they spend the whole day on the 13th trying to march around. There's no opening there. So they send word back to Cochrane, the overall in charge of this thing. We are not going to be able to crack this nut without the Navy's help. You're going to have to distract them. Give us some support on the line. So from that evening, the 13th, that afternoon on the 13th, well, according to Scott Sheets, that morning they're already doing ranging fire from the bomb ships. Oh yeah, them bomb ships showed up, and they came along and they dropped anchor right off of the Port Authority, Colgate Creek,
Dundalk.
Airport Grill,
Dundalk,
right, St. Helena. Right off the mouth of Colgate Creek is Arch of these bomb vessels, and they're ranging on the morning of the 13th, and they get serious on the afternoon, and for 25 hours they're lobbing shells in McHenry trying to make a dent. And every time they get done bombarding and they think they might have done some damage, they send some ships in, and as soon as the ships get within range of the regular cannon at McHenry opens up and makes them scurry back out. So this goes on for 25 hours. There's riders going back and forth. And Brooks is waiting for the Navy to make a dent. The Navy's waiting for the Army to do something. And Brooks looks at it and says, well, there's a corner right there where it bulges out a little bit. Right, almost right in front of the pagoda, there's a point of land that sticks out about 100 yards, no, less than 50 yards, half a football field. It just bulges out. And he says, if I point a bayonet charge right at that point, go up that hill at night, Stony Creek again. If we could do a night bayonet charge and take that corner, we might be able to go down the line and take the cannon and take the battle. If. This is assuming we can get past them. Remember, you've got two almost equal-sized regiments, brigades, almost equal to the amount of men you have that you're leading into this charge on either side of you. No matter how you cut this, no matter which angle you go in on, there's going to be two almost equal-sized groups of men on your sides, plus an unknown cannon all over the place in your front. And it's uphill like this, and it's open farmland, and it's about 3/4 of a mile open. Brooks says, if I would have done this, and I would have been successful, I would have been down in the history books as one of the greatest generals in the British Army. The problem is there was probably a better 90% chance that it could be done. Keep in mind what I said all the way back in square one. They were under orders not to take any unnecessary chances. Plus the fact that Cochrane can't give you medicine. They can't get through either. So, in the middle of the night, around 2 o'clock, Brooks says, okay, throw some more logs on the fire, get them going, get them good, make it look like we're still here, and let's start moving back down. By early morning, they were back down here, and by late morning, they were back down in Edgemere. The 85th, who had led the assault coming in, occupied the trenches that we had dug back in 1813, when we thought we would defend a lot further down on the point. And they occupied our trenches and formed a real strong rear guard that we couldn't get past. That's something else that we don't talk about in our history books because it is sort of embarrassing. Nobody thought to build the trenches back in. Nobody realized you could use the trenches in either direction, right? So, anyway, the 85th forms a rear guard. The rest of the troops, for the most part, are back on the boats when the 85th pulls back. And by the 16th and 17th, Brits go back down the city. You all are aware of the fact that during the bombardment in the morning of the 14th, by dawn's early light, when the signal gun fired, Francis Scott Key saw that the flag was still there and wrote what would become our national anthem. And the city was saved. So, questions? Okay.
Yeah, if the British began bombarding in the afternoon of the 13th.
According to Scott, okay, now, according to Scott says they were ranging even earlier. He says they legitimately bombarded 5, 26 hours, but they were probably doing it. It takes a while to set one of those bomb catches up. You've got a bomb catch. You got this huge mortar. The bombardment of Copenhagen is in one of the Hornblower books. Read that, and it's got at least 100 pages on setting up one of these things. You're under sail, and you sail up into the wind. You pull up and sail up into the wind, and you're losing headway. And as far up as you can go, you drop the 2 front anchors, boom, boom, and you let the anchor splay out all the way out as the boat's falling away, falling away, falling away, falling away, and you've got the complete anchor all the way out, and then you drop the other 2 anchors. You've got 4 anchors out, and then you reel yourself in on the front anchors, and you wind up where you got anchor, and 4 long lines. And you're sideways to, basically sideways
These
to
guys,
your
they
target.
stood out up in Canada for like 2
And at that point, you lock everything down, you fire a shell, and you watch it go in. Oops, I wanted to go there and it went there, okay? Let go of the rear anchor on the port side, rear anchor. Let go of the port front anchor a little bit, take up on the starboard rear anchor, okay? Adjust this one a little bit, the whole ship moves over. Fire it again. Okay, you got it, but you're dead on, you're right on the line, but it's going a little too far. Now you start shooting, shortening the fuse, and so forth. But in order to, the way we do this with artillery now, they move the whole boat. And then when they fire the thing, the whole boat recoiled down in the water, 5, 8 foot. Boom! When they lit that fuse, everybody hung down. Because, I mean, whoa, right? And she's right. There was no recoil mechanism whatsoever other than the water itself. And if you screwed up and you anchored in 6 foot of water, you were in trouble because you stuck yourself down in the mud. But they were awesome. That's a different story. And we're losing time, gang. It's almost 4 o'clock.